Hello and welcome to Warwhiskey podcast. My name is Justin Fisher. I'll be your host. Today's topic we're talking about PTSD. It's kind of a deep talk. It's also a special edition considering I am by myself. My tech guy got exposed to the Rona. And don't worry, folks, he is Rona-rific. So, came up negative. However, so we don't become a statistic, we are doing the social distancing, which led to this late posting Warwhiskey podcast. But we're talking about PTSD. Heavy topic. Controversial topic. We're going to share some insights on it. Won't be a very long podcast, start to narrow those down a little bit. But it's inspired by this challenge I just completed called the 22-day challenge. Basically, it brings awareness. You do 22 push-ups for 22 days to bring awareness to the average of 22 veteran suicides a day. Okay, you can do 22 push-ups or whatever exercise you can do. I was nominated by two great individuals, Casey Brewster and indirectly his sister Kelly Woods. I've known them since I was, I think we determined the 5th grade, maybe 6th grade. Great people, honorable people. I think very highly of both of them. Casey and I served in Iraq together. He owned a nonprofit that benefits veterans. She does some super secret spy stuff. Phenomenal people. I think the world of them. And it was an honor for them to nominate me. And thank you to everybody who did the push-ups that I nominated you for. Appreciate it. And I get it. A lot of people were like, I asked some of my friends and from my old unit, and they're like, oh, I don't give them the peer pressure, which means ask me. Please ask me so I can be a drama queen. And the other one was like, I don't want to talk about war anymore. And I'm like, bro, you literally have a picture of your 2004 deployment on your Facebook page. That is your profile picture. Something from 20 years ago. That's your, almost 20 years ago. That's your Facebook page. Great job. However, I did it for the people who nominated me and to bring awareness. But it leads on to a bigger topic, PTSD. I have different views on PTSD, and I just really recently realized that how many people in my old unit are suffering severely from it. And I felt kind of guilty because we all went our separate ways when we got back in 0405. And I said, so I've been deployed 3 times. And I mentioned that in my first podcast. But 0405 was what we called the cherry popper because we were exposed to the most combat then. We took numerous Purple Hearts. People were losing limbs. 1K, just several just life and death situations. That's the heavy one. The rest of them were just garbage. Iraq in 08 wasn't nothing. Kosovo in 18 really wasn't nothing. Unless you like drama, then it was like now 210 or High School Musical. It's probably a cross between those if I was a betting man. But PTSD. So, personally, I believe, and it's a controversial thing, but I believe that society really wants you to be a broken vet. And I've shared this with a lot of people. So we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts. Just from my perspective, I'm a veteran, 21 years, so people may get upset, but I really don't care. Number one, before we even start this whole thing is, it's noted that we all process things differently. I'm going to put that out there right now. We process things differently. How you process things in a life and death situation is different from day to day. You can read all the good books in the world by Jocko Willink, Gerald Mathis. Because I promise you, that's not going to help you when the first bullet comes at you. You can do all you want. And I see that a lot. A lot of people are like, oh, I did this TED Talk with my unit about it. Yeah, that doesn't prepare them for war. Really, when it comes to those situations, you revert back to your training. But you eventually still have to process it. You have to process the situation you're in. Another thing I'll tell you, that combat or life and death situations expose you for who you really are. That's the truth. You form a cage around you. And this cage is made up of your home life growing up. All the things that you had. If you're an 80s kid like me, you may have had a badass Nintendo 8-bit awesome system, the entertainment system. Your school, I was in a small ass school. all your parents, so all that forms cages around you. But when that first bullet or grenade goes off at you or by you, it cuts directly to your core, and that's where they will say you train how you fight and keep that training mentality. That's where you rely on. But you still have to fucking process it, and that's what we're talking about today. So the first thing is not all veterans are broken. Stop treating us like that. Now I'm sure some experiences when I state these things. When I got back in 2005, I got back, and everybody when they get back from deployment, you're not really back to your home. And we got back. All the married people met with their wives and kids and all that stuff, and it was a big happy family with them. But all of us single dudes went wild and out on the town, lived it up. And some of you who deployed with me in '05 know exactly what I'm talking about, and how come we can never go back to Fort Sill or that area again. The high life is only good until you get ready to go home. Now the difference between '04 and '05 is they let you go blow off steam. In 2018 they didn't let us do that. Really, they didn't let us do it in '09 when we got back either. They kind of shut that down because I guess too many people were getting wild and crazy. But then the Army didn't really know how to process or handle people coming back from the deployments. They just let them go. And they didn't know how to handle all the casualties and the injuries coming from it. So we're back in Lawton. My unit is getting ready to go. I stayed behind because A, I like the lifestyle, and B, I was making money processing shoulders coming back. And I also had to have knee surgery. So I got my right knee repaired while I was there. My unit goes back, and the harsh reality hits that, oh, I'm stuck here alone. So at the time, the Army didn't, like I said, they didn't know how to process medicals and all that stuff. So they had this holding cell. We called it CB8CO. Then now it's called Warrior Transition Unit now. Basically, it's a facility for soldiers to rehab and get back up on their feet from surgery or whatever and get back to their units. They really didn't have it set up then. So I have knee surgery. The Army gives me a bag of 15,000 milligram Percocets day one. I said, take it when you feel like it. They didn't tell me when to take it. They said, take it when you feel like it. I get to the barracks, and I meet my roommate. I never even met this guy before. Didn't even know who he was. He said he was an 88 Mike, which is a truck driver, probably mid-40s at the time. I was probably 22, 23 at the time when I met him. He told me, because I haven't seen my family in 8 months. I was like, what the heck? What is this place? The barracks wall was, you know, cylinder block style. There's windows at the top, but you couldn't see the windows. You couldn't call them windows. And what they were doing is they were making these soldiers do rehab during the day, then making you work minuscule, like some kind of like, you know, small ass tasks on post, like at range control or working in the DFAC. Just getting their money worth out of these soldiers who did nothing wrong but get hurt. Treating them like garbage. I sit there and I take some pills. I go to rehab the next day, and it's excruciating rehab. They were shocking me, all kinds of stuff, trying to get my muscle. It was horrible Army rehab for your leg. I basically emptied the bag in 2 days. And that night, I woke up, my pain was horrible. And I go to rehab the next day, the third day, and I say, I need some more pills. They blindly, without even hesitation, give me 20 more pills. I got back to the barracks, and I remember looking at them, and I thought, I can't keep doing this. And I freaking tossed it in there, and I flushed them. And that was it. Flushed them. Dealt with the pain. I decided to make a plan to like a jailbreak. So I started, the guy who was over it, NCO didn't deploy, but he couldn't handle stress. He damn sure couldn't handle a soldier like me who really wants to become disruptive. So I started being late. I started doing all kinds of things to get myself kicked out of Fort Sill. And the third day of me being late and bringing people who were civilians back to the barracks and all kinds of stuff with crutches, which is applause, he goes, do you want to go home? I said, yeah. He said, good, I got you a rehab center in Mena, Arkansas, which was great. my unit. So they sent me back to Mina, to my unit, and I worked at my unit while rehab. So that brought me into conflict with my parents, and I said, don't treat us like we're broken. Day one, I get there, and my parents are like, you need to go see a therapist. You need to go see the preacher. Look at you, you're so different. I haven't even unpacked my bag yet. Have I changed? Yeah, I changed. I knew I changed. I knew I was different. But they were already trying to put me back into that cage. Because they wanted me to be that broke shoulder that depended on. Because as I said in my first podcast, they never wanted me to leave. So this was their opportunity to do that. Another thing you don't do when a veteran gets back is don't prop them up unless they're ready to be propped up. This is crucial. A lot of veterans don't talk about it because you view it as a job. Some of them do it for dramatic effects. I have a friend, like I said, he's like, I don't want to talk about war. And then every other time he almost introduces himself with a war story. Except when you ask him to do something, then he's like, I can't talk about it. You know, they're real dramatic. A lot of them don't want to talk about it because A, they realize what they really are because they've been exposed. Or B, it's a job to them. And to me, it was always a job. I cared more about getting my guys home than anything else. That's all I cared about. I couldn't give two fucks about any award I got. All I cared about was getting my team home and all my friends and doing my part. And I guess that's what helped me deal with things. 'Cause I was prepared to go as long as they could live. And I've never really told them that. And I'm sure the podcast is disingenuous, but it's the absolute truth. I was prepared to go so they could live if it came down to that. But my parents saw it as a chance, and I didn't even tell them this, but they saw it as a chance to introduce me. And they would introduce me as, hey, this is my son Justin. He received the Bronze Star, and I was fucking appalled that they did that shit. And they still do that shit today. It didn't matter, and they don't understand that. And this is not an indictment on my parents. This is true facts because they don't know how to handle it. If veterans want to talk about it, they'll talk about it. They'll talk about who they want to talk about with. That's the bottom line. If I wanted people to know I have a Bronze Star, I would have put it on my back glass like everybody up here at fucking PEC does. Alright? But I don't. It's just a piece of metal. That's all it is. That's all, a piece of paper. Getting my friends home and making sure that they could come back to their families was all I cared about. I guess that's how come like I said, I guess that's how come I was able to process it better. Because all I cared about was their survival and not mine. I care about doing the job and getting it done with. Another thing is that you had to deal with is they have changed. But you can't push reality on them too quick. You got to ease them back into it. Because when you're deployed, deployments nowadays are more connected, but then it was more of a that's how come I'm referring to then. It's an alternate reality because you're separated from your mortgage payments, your wife payments, your other wife payments, your house payments. All that stuff's gone. It's still there, but it's not your forefront. You're worried about, and everything's simple. The simplest thing in the world you can do is shoot someone because you take the weapon off safe, engage your target. That's it. Or do your job in the military. It's the simplest job in the world. Do your job. You don't have to worry about upsetting Frank at the damn post office or anything of that nature. And when you come back, all that greets you. Because a lot of veterans don't know how to adapt because they're used to that environment. And society in general doesn't know how to transition veterans back. That was about 2 years from 05 to 07 before I went back on my second deployment. I was working in the civilian sector. And here I am doing all kinds of, being a point man on combat patrols, doing all kinds of responsibility to having to deal with civilians who don't even care. Oh, well, Margaret's done more than you. you should listen to her, and you're like, who is that? And it's transition both ways. You got to understand the environment you're in, but society really still hasn't learned to accept soldiers for what to do, because they don't understand the world that's out there, what they have to do, what soldiers, sailors, Marines, everybody who's in our armed forces have to deal with. It's just, there's a lot of complexities that come with PTSD, but it all comes down to how we process who we really are, and what you're allowed to do. And honestly, I even hate to say this, but some veterans to play the PTSD card for attention, then unfortunately it becomes a reality. And that's terrible to say. But I've met people who are like, what did you do? Oh man, I was at, logistic trains or something like that. I'm not saying that's not action oriented, but they're like in Kuwait or something like that, and they have PTSD. I'm like, okay, that's weird, but all right. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying it's just a lot of them do it for the attention till it becomes a part of their reality. I've met people who say, "Oh, I just stay away from trigger words and trigger spaces." So I'm like, so you're actively going to avoid these things the rest of your life. It's hard for me to process at times, because I know I've changed. Everybody changes on deployment because you're away from everything. You're detached. I know I've changed. I know for a fact I've changed, but it's just, we all process it differently, and that's what the key thing that you have to understand is that we process things different, and you have to look at the veteran and be like, did they process it properly? I do believe we're all capable of taking our life. I do believe that. I believe there's something within all of us that, if it's triggered, sequence is triggered properly, we would take our life. That's where that cage comes into play. When that cage gets opened up and you're exposed for who you really are, you like it or you don't like it. There are days that I feel like I should have been there more for my friends. Recently, a good friend of mine, trust this guy with his life. Hell, we trust each other with our lives. He called me after 15-something years, and he was like, man, he asked me, I'm not going to get into it because he'll know who I'm talking about, but I ended up doing a letter for him, and it resounded with me, because he did a heroic ass act, but he's been living with this for 15 years, and he's just now dealing with it. And if you need help, if you truly need help, get help. Don't lose sleep for 15 years because of your actions. Do I think eventually all the stuff I've done, will eventually manifest? It could happen. You never know. But it hasn't. It just, there's different things about me. There's things that are different, but as I said earlier, we all process things differently, and there's a time and place for it. Usually, it's always at the wrong time when you realize everything and you have a meltdown. I just encourage everybody to understand that the veteran you're getting, they're different. You're different, they're different. We all process things differently. And sometimes we evolve. In my case, I evolved outside of what my parents thought I could be. I was free. I mean, you survive a deployment, you're pretty much a different person. A lot of people don't like that, but you're evolving. You evolved. Your family may evolve, you may evolve, but if it's a positive evolution, then there's nothing wrong with it. Things change. So that's enough for me tonight. It's a short podcast. Again, I want to thank everybody for helping out with the 22 day challenge. Stay tuned. We're going to do some more short podcasts in the future. Click like, click, share, subscribe. Do everything you need to do. I'm out.